Chord Mojo 2 is a great DAC, there's no question there, but with its portable size, lack of ports and very bad ease of use, is it truly the best DAC for you and your stereo system? Besides reviewing this device, I will explain all the pros and cons of having this DAC be part of your stereo system, because main purpose of this device is to be mobile headphone DAC. There is something to be said when a device that is meant to be headphone DAC can outperform many bigger desktop DACs. The legacy of Chord is truly one that cements them as DAC royalties. From cheaper Mojo 2 to Qtest and Hugo, their DAC pushed the boundaries in what DAC does. And from a standpoint of comparing them to other DACs, it is important to note that it does use a homebrew DAC for ePulse RA, which is in itself a little bit shrouded in mystery. If you go for DACs in this price level, you will have the usual suspects from ES Sabre, Burr Brown, Wolfson, etc. These DAC chips have been in many audiophile gears across the market, and by getting familiar with them and learning more about their construction, we are more aware what chip and sound we get. So 4 ePulse and Clinic's Arctics are sort of short sound, and inside its aluminum casework there is something called UHD DSP, which is supposed to be lossless digital signal processor. It is supposed to improve beat-perfect digital reproduction. It also comes with 104-bit processor for better equalizing the dynamic response of your treble and bass. All those information is supposed to tell us that there is hardware inside that casework that brings better noiseless production. All those information is supposed to tell us that there is a hardware inside that casework that brings better noiseless production, which is more faithful to the original production. And the sound is the star of the show. It is very lively sound. It makes any gear you attach it to feel more alive and musical. There is a great refinement in the presentation of every instrument that is done via carefully updating how much response that this DAC exports from every musical bit it gets from its source. It makes any gear you attach it to feel more alive and musical. There is a greater refinement in the presentation of every instrument that is done via carefully updating how much response does this DAC export from every musical bit it gets. It organizes music in its way that it gives enough room for every instrument to shine and present itself without feeling crowded on sonic stage. Incredible agility is to me something that this DAC does so good. It is why the sound coming from speakers becomes more musical. It is the reason the sound of cymbals, snare and percussion feels so alive. It is why guitar lead has a big range and is expanding and coming directly to you while sitting and listening. It is a joy to also pair this DAC with something more neutral and similarly lively speakers, like Audiolab Music Fidelity amp with some dollies or Q acoustics. And imagine now this lovely, energetic sound with a great sense on how it feels on soundstage. DAC's main purpose should be filtering as much as noise as it can and well organizing and preparing your sound for amp and later in chain speakers. If it does a good job, it helps your amp and speakers flourish more and show its talent. And what it does for soundstage is incredible, as it gives transparency and timing to instruments. And those lively sound certainly is presented with transparency, depth and shape that it truly opens your sound. In sense, it is a great tool to help every gear you have at home sound better than before. Two albums I listened to test this are Pink Floyd Animals, the new 2022 mix, and Flaming Lips Soft Bulletin. Animals have its smooth instrumentation, was boxed and cramped in original. Let me tell you, it was a masterpiece then and it is a masterpiece now. But new mix allows sound to spread its wings and to be more open. Every instrument have its space and weight without pushing each other. What this DAC does to the sound is incredible. It makes all the instruments pop out more and the record sound more upbeat and present, even a bit modern. Every solo of Gilmour's guitar sound more near you with presence and dynamics. Texture of Right are more detailed and DAC blends it so perfectly with the rest of instrumentation. Waters' vocals have this ethereal feeling to them, but yet have presence and weight. And none of them are fighting for time to shine. Every one of them is alive and lovely, like this album should have sound always. And the eternal majesty of this album still shines on today. The reason for Flaming Lips, the soft bulletin, is that its production is very busy and complex. There's a lot of texture, electronics, percussions, and details happening all at once. It makes this record a joy to listen, and it even have this garage lo-fi aspect to its drums and guitar. It is a difficult record sometimes for Dacs to organize correctly. Its mayhem of colors, sonics, and bravado have been very pleasingly organized by Chord. Its transparency helped to pick out fine details and nuisance without killing what makes this album so great. And that is the almost childlike energy and curiosity with every song it did. While not a perfect job, I think it did a good job into separating every instrumentation. I think the instruments had a lot of details, textures, but I believe some more expensive Dacs did a better job into separating all the instruments in their role correctly and giving them space to breathe. But still, it was a good job. And this is all great, but why the title of this video then? Well, because with some A/B testing of different amps and just using this DAC for a long time, I realized that design, features, and ease of use is horrible. Feature-wise, Chord can do 16 to 24-bit music and DSD up to 256, which is great, even though newer DAC can now expand 32-bit and DSD with 512, but this is such a niche option that for a very few amount of audiophiles who have access to this kind of files. Not me. But to me, great strength of DAC is not sound itself, it is how it is able to equalize, filter, and shape the output of sounds. As how customizable is that output to best fit your room. Every amp and speakers have its own characteristics, strength, weaknesses, and sometimes they might punish your room or synergy of hi-fi components. And at that time, lowering treble or bass can be a savior. I used to constantly use DACs equalizing with different gear when it arrived at my home. Not so much now, but before. And ability to add filters and change dynamic range of treble and bass was not a cure or solution for ugly sound, but it did help. To do that on Chord Mojo, I literally always have to go to Get Manual to do it, as every aspect of equalizing is shown as a color, and there is an upper and lower treble and upper and lower bass. There is one option for light, for spatial effects, etc. And to add or remove decibels, all it is done with 2-3 buttons presented with various colors. It is impossible to remember all the combination you have to click to perform equalizing, and there are not even saved presets of filters for quick applying, and even to perform some basic functions like to see and change the volume is impossible without manual. It is a nightmare. And that is not all. Output sockets or Chord Mojo 2 is super limited. If you want this to be your DAC preamp for headphones, it is okay, but for your hi-fi system, be prepared to buy specialized cables or extensions. I had used some Chinese extensions with my cables, which completely destroyed the sound, until I found AudioQuest have few good options for extensions. But it still creates more clutter and expenses if you want to use your old great cables. There is an alternative to buy those 3.5mm jack to RCA cables, but I just didn't want to do that. And for input, if you want to use coaxial cables, which I use, there is no socket for that. What Mojo recommend is USB or digital optical input. And the device charges with mini USB, which creates a plethora of problems of its own. One which luckily they improved from previous version is that now there is this smart charging. When your device is desktop bound for a long time, when it completely charges, it will send smaller amount of energy rather than constantly be charging. Previous generation had a big problem that battery was dying fast if Mojo was constantly charging. But even with this new technology, you should always be vigilant at your battery, as you don't want to have expensive paperweight. And this is something that even cheaper DACs do so much better than Chord Mojo. And those DACs can maybe be even better option for you as their features and usability is far greater than one of the Chord Mojo 2 have. Ifi Zen Duo is now a gold standard for cheap, trusty, all-around good DAC. It is equal or better than a lot of DACs in sub-1000 integrated amps. It organizes sound so it becomes more clear and therefore making sound more insightful. It can easily connect to your amp, but there is no hardware level equalizer on this machine. It organizes sound so it becomes more clear and therefore making a sound more insightful. It can easily connect to your amp, but there is no hardware level equalizer on this machine. You can always connect it with USB to your PC and use your PC as equalizer, like with every other modern DAC. One thing that Ifi have is MQA, which Chord 2 does not possess, so if you're a fan of Tidal, it could be a plus. Still, it is 1/3 the price of Mojo 2, while delivering very organized and musical sound. Still, comparing this to Mojo 2, it does not have a reach of dynamic response that Mojo 2 allows, nor does it open the sound with a verve or dynamics like Mojo 2. Cambridge Audio DacMagic 200 is one of the more famous DACs on the market in this price range. 100 and plus DACs are among the best-selling DACs. As far as features and ease of use goes, it has everything, from connections to balanced and unbalanced connections, Bluetooth, variety of digital connections, etc. So ability to see and read current settings is far more easier than on Chord. From balanced and unbalanced connections, Bluetooth, variety of digital connections, etc. And ability to see and read current settings is far more easier than on Chord. For equalizing, it does not do chords shaving and adding, but it does variants of low pass and high pass filters with a click of a button, making equalizing easy with use of filter buttons. Sound-wise, it is a balanced approach that gives a lot of transparency to sound. It is very characteristic smooth sound, that means that it goes a tad warm. It is more neutral, so it allows greater separation of instruments and bigger soundstage, even a tad better than on Chord. But Chord sound is livelier and punchier and with bigger dynamics, and with that response comes more detailed and treble-rich sound. It is equally priced as Chord, so if you want bigger soundstage and absolutely more features and connectivity, including MQA and DSD 512, then go with DacMagic. Topping D70 Pro Octo and to some extent D90 are fantastic DACs. They are similarly priced as Chord but delivers outstanding sounds. Connection-wise, they have everything you need: balanced, unbalanced, digital, optical, Bluetooth, whatever you need connection. Features there are plenty, as the colorful display allow all the information to be easily read and later manipulated. They have advanced XMOS processor inside and even using octa-core chips to process information. They allow both native MQA and DSD processing for more clear, noise-free signal to your amp. Features there are plenty, as the colorful display allow all the information to be easily read and later manipulated. They have advanced XMOS processor inside and even using octa-core chips to process information. They allow both native MQA and DSD processing for more clear, noise-free signal to your amp. There is also equalizing through filters, again using low-pass and high-pass filters. And additionally, there is a spectrum analyzer for watching for all the insufficiencies on your sound. And the sound is really great. One of the biggest plus is that it works so well with large variety of amps. It unveils and gives light to so many small nuisances in music, and separation in soundstage and instrument is really gorgeous. As with many DACs, Chord have these natural tendencies to be a leader or a frontman, so it is more agile and dynamic sound, but it also can sometimes uncover insufficiencies of record, or doesn't filter all the noise as good as topping coming from cables and sources. This is where topping shines as a more subdued DAC who approaches filtering noises and organization of sound with more finesse in giving a great pristine sound that allows your amp or speakers to give it dynamics as it pleases. And topping comes with remote control, something that nor Cambridge Audio, neither Chord comes with. Conclusion is that Mojo 2 is a great DAC. No, pardon me, a phenomenal DAC. If you're interested in portability and as a great headphone preamp DAC, then there's not much to fault at this price level. You get excellent sound, which is agile and transparent, which will be heart and soul of every music you listen. But if you are interested in DAC, which can be a bridge from your source to your stereo hi-fi system, and you want more features, ease of use, and easier equalizing and connections, there are alternatives that might suit you far better, as they could be better integrated into your setup and bring more joy for ease of use. So you have to weigh if sound quality or ease of use is a paramount necessity of your hi-fi sound system. You might go with Chord, but prepared for some troubles and shortcomings on its way to that great sound. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you like it. If you can and you want to support this channel, please like and subscribe. It will help me a lot to expand and hold this passion of mine. All the best, bye.